We all face problems every day, and figuring out how to solve them can be really complicated. Sometimes we just don't know what to do. And so today I want to break down something that's called the decision-making process. It has 6 different steps that help you break a problem down and figure out how to approach it. So as a general overview, number 1, we have to define the issue. Have you ever heard the phrase, the first step to solving your problem is recognizing that you have a problem? That's step 1. What is the problem that we're dealing with? Number 2, you're going to gather additional information about the problem. What are the details of it? Number 3, you're going to develop your alternatives. What are your options here? Number 4, you're going to analyze the consequences for each of those different options. Number 5, you actually make the decision. What is going to work best for you? And then number 6, and this is one that people don't always think about, you're going to consider, okay, how did that work out? And how can I avoid that problem in the future? So let's break this down. So number 1, defining the issue. What is the problem? So today, our example is going to be that you have homework due today and you haven't done it yet. You just totally forgot and you haven't done it. So that's the issue. Number 2, we're going to gather more information. What are the details of this? What exactly was the homework? Was it a math worksheet? Was it an essay? Was it a diorama? All of these different things might affect how you approach a solution. And then when is it due? Is it due at the start of class? Is it due at the end of the day? Is it due in the middle? And how long would it take you to do it? If it's a worksheet, maybe it's only 10 to 20 minutes. If it's an essay, maybe it's more like an hour. So these are all different things that we would want to figure out to help us solve the problem. And then number 3, what are your options? What could we do? So 1, we could ask for an extension. Could go to the teacher, say, I'm so sorry, I didn't get to my homework. Could I have a one-time extension? Can I have another day? Whatever it is. Or you could try and finish it on your lunch break, assuming that it's due after lunch. You could try and get it done. Or number 3, you could decide not to do it at all. I don't recommend this option, but it is technically an option. You could just decide, I'm gonna skip this one. And then number 4, you're gonna analyze what are the consequences for each of these alternatives. So if you ask for an extension on your homework, your teacher might say no, they might be disappointed in you, or they might say yes, and you might get the extension. And then you have extra homework to do tonight, but you could still get your grade. If you try and complete it on your lunch break, 1, maybe your lunch break isn't long enough. Maybe you take the time and you still don't finish it. Maybe you miss out on eating your lunch or social time with friends. Or maybe you get it all done and problem solved. So for each of these consequences, it's really going to depend on your situation and on your thought process with it, right? And then we have the third consequence. And then we have the third alternative. If you decide not to do it, then you might see it affect your grade. Again, teacher might be disappointed in you, but hey, you'll have saved the time and energy it would have taken to do it. But then you also might not understand the content as well. So these are just all the different things that you have to take into account, into consideration. And this is the really hard part. This is the part where you might want to reach out to a trusted adult and say, hey, I have this problem. I've thought of a few different ways I could handle it, but I'm really not sure. Can you help me? Can we talk this through? That's totally fine. Once you've done all that, number 5, you make the decision. Which one of these are you going to go with? And then you do that. And then number 6, consider the feedback and evaluation. How well did it actually work out? So when you're thinking about consequences ahead of time, you're thinking about what might happen. In this stage, you've already made the decision, and you're thinking about what actually happened. How did this end up? What were the results of this decision? And then additionally, you might think of, how can I avoid that problem in the future? Can I get a planner where I write down all of my different homework assignments? Can you set an alarm for a certain amount of time to help you make sure you do your homework? Can you ask a trusted adult to remind you? There's a lot of different ways that you could go about it. So that kind of breaks down a process for approaching problem solving. And there's a lot of different ways to approach it, but I hope that that gives you an example of how you can break things down, because problems can seem really, really big. But if we can break it down into steps, hopefully we're more equipped to handle it. Setting goals can help us direct our focus, our energy, our time toward whatever it is that we want to accomplish. Today, I want to break down a term called SMART goals. This is an acronym that's really gained a lot of momentum lately, and it breaks down an easy way to set goals that hopefully will make them attainable and achievable. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. And we're going to break down what each of those means. So the first one is specific. Having a really big goal is great, but it's hard to define. For example, if I say, I want to travel the world, awesome, but what does that actually mean? Does that mean that I want to travel 3 times? Does that mean I want to travel to every single continent, every single state, every single country? What does it mean? So first, we want to make it more specific. So my example that I'm going to use today is paying for a concert ticket. So specific, I want to pay for this concert ticket for this concert. So that's going to be our goal that we're working from. Next is measurable. How do you measure that? So if you're thinking about something like a concert ticket, it costs $100, and it's really easy to measure that money going up in your bank account. That's easy to see, it's easy to measure. Something like, I want to be happier. Again, a really great goal, but that's hard to measure. We have to think for some way that we can keep track of that, and that can be a lot more difficult than something like, I want to save $100. The next one is attainable. Is it something that we can actually do? Now, you could have a really big goal, like, I want to be an astronaut. Very cool, but that's really big. And there's a lot of little steps to get to that point. It might make more sense to break it down into smaller steps. Like maybe I want to graduate high school, and then I want to go to this aerospace program, or I want to take this astronomy class, and kind of build your way up to the astronaut goal. So in our example of saving $100 for a concert ticket, that's pretty attainable as long as we have a good amount of time before the concert. The next one is relevant. So it has to be something that you actually care about, that actually matters to you. Sometimes in life, other people tell us what our goals should be, but it's really hard to work toward a goal that you're not excited about or that you don't actually care about. So you want to make sure that it's something that is relevant to your wants and to your life, something that you can make happen because you want to. So going to a concert, super relevant. I really want to do that. So that's part of my goal. And then finally, time-based. It can be really helpful to give yourself some sort of deadline so that you can track your progress. Because saying something like, I want to save $100, but having no time frame for that, I'm not gonna feel as committed to it because I'm like, yeah, I could do it 10 years from now. But if I say I wanna save $100 by the end of this month so I can pay for this concert, that's very specific, it's very measurable, attainable, relevant, and it's time-based. So I'm more likely to follow through. So hopefully that can help you as you're thinking about your future and about goals that you want to make. This can help you to break it down and make them smart. An accommodation is a change to your environment that helps you succeed. It helps you accomplish some sort of task or goal. Accommodations are agreed upon by you and your job or your school or even your home, whoever lives at home with you. Some examples of accommodations could be sitting closer to the board at school if your eyesight makes it difficult to read things far away. It could look like a standing desk if you are somebody who needs to move around to stay focused. Or if writing is difficult, an accommodation could be having an assigned note taker when you're in meetings or at school. Those are all different examples of accommodations. Let's also talk about some situations when you might need to request an accommodation. A lot of times, accommodations are requested at school to help you succeed in learning content or passing tests. They can also be requested during the application or interview process for a job. If you need an accommodation to fill out an application, if you need help with interpretation or anything like that, that would be considered an accommodation. Additionally, you might request accommodations when you interview for a job. You might ask to see the questions ahead of time if you need a little bit more mental processing time, something like that. You may ask to ensure the interview takes place somewhere where your transportation can reach if you take a city bus. You may also request accommodations when you get a job. That is a really big time when a lot of people ask for these types of changes. You could also request accommodations in any environment out in the community where you feel like you're struggling or at some sort of disadvantage. This could be asking for an additional hearing aid at a concert or a church sermon. This could be taking your noise-canceling headphones with you if you feel overwhelmed at the mall. So think about the different things you might need in these types of situations, and that's a good way to start thinking about accommodations. When you go to request an accommodation, I recommend what's called the sandwich method. In the sandwich method, you start by telling the person your strength, something that you are good at. Then you tell them your challenge. This is where you tell them that you need help, and here's how. And then the accommodation is how specifically they can help you with that challenge. So for example, I might say something like, I'm good at building cabinets. However, I sometimes have difficulty reading the written instructions. But if the instructions are read out loud to me, I can understand them more accurately and get the job done. So you tell them your strength, you tell them a challenge, and you tell them the accommodation that will help you. I also want to cover some general tips when you request an accommodation. First of all, it's really good to know the right person to talk to. Who is the person that can actually help? So if it's at school, asking your friend who sits next to you, they might be able to help a little bit, but it's probably more effective to talk to the teacher. Just like at work, it's more effective to talk to your manager or HR. So know the right person to talk to about that accommodation. Additionally, you want to put things in writing if possible. Have a written record of the accommodations that have been discussed. That way it creates clarity for everybody involved. And if there's ever questions down the line, you can go back and look at what you wrote down. Be as specific with what you need as you can. You know yourself better than anybody else. And if you aren't sure what to ask a trusted adult who knows you well. The more that you can come with solutions already prepared, the easier it will be for somebody to implement those things. And as always, if you aren't sure how to do some of these things, rely on your support. Ask for help. Ask your trusted adults for advice. So just know that you deserve accommodations You deserve for the world around you to fit your needs. It's not always easy, but these are some ways to approach requesting the accommodations that are going to make your life easier and help you succeed in whatever you're doing.